Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Sophia Binder and I am the marketing associate at NMS Consulting, Inc. NMS is a global management consulting firm with a focus on business transformation and strategic growth. Unlike other consulting firms, we provide the expertise of big firm consultants, but without the high costs. And we're really pleased to announce that NMS is considered to be one of the top consulting firms, not just in Europe, but globally as well. And with us today is Harry Moore, Senior Partner and Head of Europe at NMS. Harry is a leading international strategist and turnaround director, having led teams at both KPMG and PwC, as well as running some high-profile corporate transformation projects. So he's here today to talk about his new book titled Family Business Matters: How to Make Your Family Business a Success. And thank you so much for joining us, Harry, to talk about your book. And I have a few questions lined up. So shall we jump right in?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm delighted to be here. And yeah, I look forward to the questions.
Don't worry, they'll be very, very interesting. Yeah. Okay, so let's start from the beginning then. When did you write your first book? How old were you? And what was it about?
Well, I guess I first started writing when I was a student, but writing some poetry for the magazine, and I attempted a book then, but I never finished it. In fact, I still keep looking at it. The first real book I wrote was some years ago. It was about my daughter. My daughter unfortunately died of leukemia, and it was I wrote down everything that happened. It was just a personal reflection for me. It was a bit of therapy, I guess. I wrote it down, and somebody said, "You should publish this," and which I did, and it came out, longest publishing book out. Several years ago, and it sold a few thousand. So
wonderful.
And from then, I just then continued to write with various other novels, mainly. Several books that I've got. I can show you different stories, etc. Various books. But then it must have been about 7 years ago, I decided that, well, I'm writing these, perhaps I had to write a business book based on my experience in business turnaround. So my first business book actually was here behind me, was Business Turnaround: How to Do It, which has sold extremely well around the world to some extent, but mainly in the UK and also in the USA, where it sold probably more copies in the USA than in the UK for some strange reason. So that's the issue behind my writing, I guess.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's actually a perfect segue for the next question, which is, what's your new book called and what is it about?
Well, a lot of my experience has been with family businesses. I actually was commissioned by the UK government to run a program working with family businesses, interviewing them. So I spent a lot of years actually working with family businesses, advising them and working in them. And there are several books around family businesses, but one of the issues that I found with family businesses was that of succession and the ability to grow. So I thought, well, I'll write down my own experiences and my own views as a guide, an memoir for family businesses, about how you grow your family business and to address the key issues in a family business, which are those of communication, as communication with non-family members particularly, and also succession, which is quite often a major problem, and the reason why many family businesses actually fail and close down.
So what would you say then was the core inspiration for this book? You kind of touched upon, I think, but just curious.
Yeah. I guess the inspiration was that having written the first book on turnaround, I thought, well, what else can I write on business? And then I thought, well, family businesses, but write something that's a little different. It's about how you succeed in a family business, bearing in mind that a family business faces the same sort of challenges and issues as any other business. It's no different in that respect. The big difference is the fact that we've got two facets to a family business, and the answer is in those two words: the family and the business. And a family is driven by emotion, doesn't like change normally, whereas a business should be driven by strategic thinking, objectivity, and needs to change. So you've always got that conflict, and that's why it's challenging. So on my experience with a lot of companies, I thought, yeah, I'll write something down about how you succeed a family business and how you can make it successful, and ensure that you have a a successful succession plan, which is, as I said, one of the big issues in family companies.
Great. And I think the answer is a little bit obvious to this next question that I'm going to ask, but who is this book written for? Obviously, it's for family businesses, but who do you think you're targeting specifically?
Well, it is family businesses to some extent. It's also people that are looking to start a family business, are thinking about starting up a business on their own. And when we say family businesses, it also includes owner-managed businesses, because quite often an owner-manager, in a sense, even if it's only one person that's actually in the business, they may be influenced by the family, by the spouse, by relatives, etc. And particularly if other family members are shareholders. So, the book does talk about owner managers as well. So it's written for owner managers, family business owners, those starting up a new business, but also for advisors, other advisors, and those people working with a family business. And that's where there's been some particular interest with law firms who have private clients, for example. It's very useful for them to how to address some of the issues in a family business, for accountants that are working with family business, and consultants and advisors like ourselves.
Right. So given the current times then, why is this specific topic relevant then?
I think, the issue about family businesses has always been relevant. I remember some time ago when the UK government approached me and my firm, Moore Fleming, about running this program. They discovered, obviously it was like finding God, that 70% of family businesses in the UK, 70% of businesses in the UK were owned by families. And it's the same elsewhere. It's the same in Germany, for example, 67%. It's very similar in the USA and more or less throughout the world. So that is always there. I think coming out of COVID, I think family businesses are facing particular issues of recovery, because they tend to be smaller businesses, they tend to be SMEs, for example, and not always have the same reserves that other companies have. So I think it is even more relevant today, this book.
Right. Okay. So then for the family business owners listening, or those looking to start their own family business, what number one piece of advice would you give them?
One is, I think it's probably two, but we're all together. I referred to it already, and that is about planning succession. People say, when should I plan for succession? When should I make my succession plan? And I always say, well, it's now. Ideally, it should be at the beginning when you start the business, but most people don't, because you don't think of that when you're starting a business. You're not thinking about, will my 3-year-old son want to inherit the business in 20 years' time? You're not thinking that.
Right.
But, I think you start early with your planning your succession. And the other, probably the most fundamental thing to think about in a family business is how you communicate, because that is where sometimes there are big failures. This is communicating with non-family members. It's what I call the Sunday lunch syndrome, that families, we make a decision in the business on a Friday. The family meet over the weekend, Sunday lunch or the Saturday night barbecue, and inevitably they discuss the business, because the business is a family and the family is a business, and that's
Right.
what happens. And they discuss it, and then people that are not involved in it say, well, what about doing this? Or what about doing that? And we end up on a Sunday evening with a completely different decision. We then go back into play on a Monday morning, and things have changed, and that can be confusing sometimes with non-family members. So I think it's really, really important that we can communicate effectively and properly with non-family members, and involve them and let them participate in the family business. And most people, to be honest, that I've met, enjoy working in a family business. They enjoy the ethics and the values of the family. They get involved with the family personally quite often, because it's a good place to be. Not always, there are exceptions, but in the main.
Yeah, sure. So do you think that there are any specific skills that a family business owner should have?
I think it's like any business. First of all, if you're a business leader, you've got to be, apart from being organised and able to manage, you've got to be inspirational. You've got to be a true leader. And I think it's what I said already in a family business. First thing is that of communication, the ability to communicate, have the interpersonal skills. It's the ability to plan, but it's also the ability, which is a difficult one, to fight a war on two fronts. Unlike when you're running a battle campaign, you've got one enemy. to fight. In a family business, I wouldn't define them as enemies, but there are two facets. You've got the world, you've got the commerce, the marketplace, you've got that, the business side of it. You've got to compete out there to generate revenue, to make the company a success on the one side. On the other side, you've got to meet the demands of the family. And sometimes they're not reconcilable, you know, and sometimes it's very, very difficult. So it's the ability to move between those two and to reconcile those two. On the one hand, to make sure you're addressing the needs and issues of the business and driving it forward. But at the same time, you've got the ability to have the two plates spinning and look after the family needs as well, and make sure that the two reconcile with each other.
That's actually a perfect segue for the next question that I have for you, Harry, which is, I'm really curious about this one. Does owning a family business affect family life? And if so, is it really positive, really negative, or is it just kind of all over the place?
Well, the easy answer to that is yes, obviously it does, because what I've said before, it's a family business, the family is a business, and the business is the family. And you can't walk away from it. Why would you? If it's your baby, it's the way you earn your income, and everybody's involved in it. And you know, you can have 3, 4, 5, even 10 people in a family business. I've seen as many as that. So it's your lifeblood, and it's inevitable. You will talk about it. It's all mixed up, and that is sometimes difficult. And what I do sometimes in companies is say, when you're in the business, let's separate the family side away from the business side by creating a family council, a family executive board, and do that quite often. So we discuss the family business issues in that meeting, and then we purely discuss the business issues with other non-family members in the normal board meetings, the normal management meetings. So it can be, is it positive or negative? I think it's both. I think it's positive that there is a bonding together of the family. There is a common goal, a common objective, a common crusade or whatever it is. They're all working for the same aim. And I think families enjoy that. But they do fall out with each other because the human beings, they don't all agree. The daughter may not agree with what the father wanted to do with the business, and vice versa. So there are aspects of that. There are very negative aspects in that sometimes we find that family members that have come into the business have not been right for the business. They're not the right person. And
right.
Sometimes to cope with that, it can be very, very difficult emotionally for family members. So it's a mixture of both, but it can be very, very positive.
Very interesting indeed. So I have one last question for you then, Harry, which is stepping away from family businesses. If you could tell your younger writing self anything, what would that be?
I would have said start writing earlier than I did. I started probably later in life. I did write, but not for my satisfaction, but start earlier. I think I would have done that, and learn to spend more time doing it. I would have guessed. I would think you've got to be disciplined in writing. It's very difficult to start writing a book and then leave it for a week or two and then come back to it. I find that if I do that, I then got to reread the whole thing again, because you've got to get your mind into the book, and particularly if it's a novel. I mean, one of my favourite novelists is Virginia Woolf. She used to say that she lived the novel. She was thinking about it all the time. She lived it and breathed it. Well, of course, I can't do that because I'm in business. You've got a business to run. So it's that discipline, learning to actually discipline yourself. So you spend time and you're living with the book all the time. But discipline is obviously you're doing, an hour a day, whatever it is. You're going to work on the book, whatever that book is.
Most definitely. All right. Well, that was my last question. Thank you so much for joining us again today, Harry. And it's been an absolute pleasure. And I wish your new book all the best success. Hopefully it'll be the next #1 hit. Who knows? And my name is Sophia Binder again. And today speaking was Harry Moore. His book is now available on Amazon and all marketplaces. It's both on Kindle as well as paperback. So make sure you guys get a copy as soon as you can.
Thank you.
Perfect.